Hi everyone, I just wanted to introduce myself as the court reporter. My name is Penny Segundo.
Hi Penny, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi Penny.
Morning, Erica.
Hi Doug, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm trying to get my layout proper so I see everybody, but I guess I can't do that until everybody's on the call.
Well, and I think, Yasmin, are you sharing that document?
I am sharing the agenda for today.
Okay.
Is that going to occupy half the screen the entire time, or is there a way to minimize that at some point so that we can visually see as many people as possible?
I think on the bottom of your screen, if you go to the more options, you can change the layout.
So 3 dots on the far right.
Yes.
Got it.
Right, I can get all of everybody on the right side. I just can't minimize the agenda.
Well, there's a... Yeah. Question.
Stop presenting the agenda, or are we good as is?
Can Erica bring up the agenda when we move to another item to share on the screen and then take it back down again, so that we could go from sort of public view to back to attachment, back to public view?
I can try to do that. So should I leave it right now until we do the call to order? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'll remove it. Okay.
That's what I would do.
Thank you.
Morning,
Hi, David. Hi, Shireen.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Morning.
And we are live. We're just waiting for one more, I believe.
Yeah, Tara.
We're waiting for Commissioner Watchman, and I want to make sure are all legal counsel on the call. I believe so. And
yes.
We have the court reporter ready to go as well. So we'll give a few minutes for our fellow commissioner has joined.
And just really quick, can I make a quick announcement? If you guys can, when you guys speak, if you can introduce yourself, that way the county reporter can catch you speaking.
Absolutely. Thank you, Yasmin. And you know what? I'm going to give it one more minute to call to order, just in case the public is, sticking to that 9 a.m. I don't want to start a minute early, but I'm thrilled everybody's ready to go. This is, if anybody's a New York Giant fan, this is the Tom Coughlin rule. You're late if you're not 5 minutes, early. And it served the New York Giants very well. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I am Chairwoman Erica Newberg, and we're going to get right to the meeting with a call to order for our agenda item 1A. It is 9 o'clock on Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. I call this meeting of the Independent Redistricting Commission to order. For the record, the administrative assistant, Yasmin Ramos, will be taking roll. When your name is called, please indicate that you are present If for technological reasons you're not able to respond, please type your name. Yasmin, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Commissioner Watchman,
Present.
Commissioner Meal,
Present.
Commissioner Lerner,
Present.
Commissioner York,
Present.
Chairwoman Newberg.
Present.
And then I'll also introduce Pamela Linnings, Kyle Cummings, and Caroline Guerrero from the AG's office, who is our legal team. And then we also have Penny Segundo, our court reporter, who will be transcribing for the commission today.
Thank you. Please note for the minutes that a quorum is present. And we'll move on to 1B, call for notice. Yasmin, was the notice and agenda for the commission meeting properly posted 48 hours in advance of today's meeting?
Yes, it was posted prior to 48 hours.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to 2A, which is approval of the general session minutes for last week's February 2nd, 2021 public meeting. For the record, again, as a reminder, a video recording fulfills all statutory requirements for minutes. And the question is, does that video recording adequately reflect the business that transpired? Is there any discussion regarding the public session minutes for February 2nd of last week? Do I have a motion to approve the public session recording for February 2nd of last week?
So moved. This is Shireen Lerner.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner York.
Any discussion? Okay. Quick vote. Commissioner Watchman,
Aye.
Commissioner Meal,
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner,
Aye.
Commissioner York,
Aye.
Commissioner Newberg is an aye. The motion carries. We will now move on to item 2B, which is approval of the executive session minutes for February 21. Similar with the above item, as a reminder, the video recording fulfills all statutory requirements. Is there any discussion on these minutes, the recording? Do I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes of February 2nd of last week?
Commissioner Watchman moves to approve the minutes for the executive session.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Meal seconds.
Okay, quick roll call. All in favor, Commissioner Watchman,
Aye.
Commissioner Meal,
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner,
Aye.
Commissioner York,
Aye.
Commissioner Newberg is an aye, and the motion carries. Moving on to item 3, the opportunity for public comments. I am now going to announce for the public comment period will now officially be open at 9:04 a.m. for a period of 30 minutes and will end at 9:34 a.m. I don't know if I said p.m., it's a.m. Comments will only be accepted electronically in writing on the link provided in the notice and agenda for this public meeting, and comments will be limited to 3,000 characters. The public can look up on the screen, and that link is provided. Please also note that members of the commission may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. And with that, let's move on to item 4, which is discussion of the public comments that we have all received prior to today's meeting. I have read them all, and I would like to open it up for discussion and impressions and responses.
Commissioners, this is Shireen Lerner. In reading the public comments, one of the things that struck me is the question about the amount of time that we're allowing for public comment, that it seems to be limited with the 30 minutes. I'm not sure why we do the 30 minutes actually, unless there's a legal reason. So from my perspective, I think that there's some really valid points that have been raised in the public comments about that. So that's one aspect, I guess, from my perspective, I'd like to have us consider at some point. I don't know when we can do an action item. I'm not sure if it's this time or when, but I'd like us to consider having longer periods for public comment the entire duration of the meeting, rather than a 30-minute window as part of that. So that I'll stop there with one comment on what I gleaned from the public comments, asking consider periods longer times for public comment.
Commissioner York, I had seen your box go off. I don't know if you had a response.
No, I would have to agree with Commissioner Lerner that it was pretty evident the public was looking for some more time. The only thing I would say is it appeared to me that the bulk of the comments we received were in reference to the frustration of time. So I'm not sure how much the public, the amount of comments didn't vary much. It was all sort of directed around the inclusion piece. So we might need to visit on that. I don't know if there's statute around how many minutes we need. Other than that, I felt that they're pretty consistent.
For clarification purposes, we are not obligated to do even any public comments. This is all an effort to be transparent, accessible, and as many of the people commented, have that sixth chair as part of our process.
I don't know if there's any legal, this is Commissioner Meal. I don't know if there's any legal reason to not have it open to the end of the meeting and then close comments at the end of the meeting, or if we need to set a time. Obviously 30 minutes is not perceived as long enough. I think we're all in agreement on that. So I would like to ask our attorney, can we just leave public comments? Can we open it at the beginning of the meeting and leave it without a fixed time and just close public comments before we adjourn?
This is
Pam, before you respond, as we discuss this, I just want to share that we're creating precedent and predictability for our public. Not all meetings are going to last hours, and whatever precedent we set, if we require ourselves to have public comment for, let's say, 60 minutes, 2 hours, we are then required to stay on that call to receive that public comment. And so with that, Pam, I don't know if there are legal ways where we can assure that there's a minimum amount of time, but that we pledge to stay open until the formal meeting closes.
Well, this is Pamela Pizer. My first question would be, do you want this in open session, or maybe what would be better for me to say is, if you want to do this in executive session, I'll leave it to you guys to say that. Otherwise, I'll presume we're doing any advice from me in the open session.
I personally don't see any reason to do this in executive session unless any other commissioner disagrees.
No.
Okay, so going from there, as you've already stated, there is no requirement to have public comment. The only issue with public comment is if you're going to accept public comment, it needs to be done while the meeting is open. So if you have public comment continuing until the meeting concludes, that's fine. If you have public comment for 2 hours, then you need to have the meeting last at least 2 hours. So you can do it either way. You can also do comment once, but that's one end of the spectrum.
So Commissioner Lerner, it sounds like we could just say open at the open, and then we're not bound by a certain number of hours, where if our meeting ends early, we still have to continue. So that would be my recommendation then, if we can make a recommendation now.
Yes, Commissioner Lerner, just as a matter of principle, on the agenda, we notified the public that all matters on the agenda may be discussed, considered, and are subject to action by the commission. So yes, I do believe, given that language, we have the ability to take action on this.
Just as a point of clarification, the one thing you'd want to do if leaving public comment open to the end of the meeting is close it just before adjournment so that it's formally closed.
This is Commissioner Meal. I suggest we follow Commissioner Lerner's suggestion and do that for the next few meetings, or until we change our mind, make that the method that we do it. It seems like that would work pretty smoothly.
With perhaps one addition, that we ensure a minimum of 30 minutes. So I like the idea, look, all of our business must be done in public. And so there may be weeks that we have something that's quite concise and we want to be able to convene to not be delayed. And who knows? I mean, there may not be times that we always are meeting for hours. And so I do think it's important that the public, if they're going to, make the effort to arrive at 9 a.m., that they know that every week at least, or when we're meeting in public, that there's at minimum a 30-minute window.
This is Commissioner Meal. I make a motion that that for future meetings, that we begin the public comment period after shortly after approving the minutes, and that we leave it open for a minimum of 30 minutes and close it prior to adjourning the meeting.
This is Commissioner Lerner, and I'll second that motion.
Okay.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes. Any discussion? Commissioner Watchman.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Watchman here. Thank you. In the comments, I also noticed some reference to perhaps having a public comment on our website, something that, separate from the meeting. And it seems to me that, not everybody is going to be available to attend our meetings and participate via public comment. And so I'm not sure what the rules are pertaining to having other public comments as was recommended by the public comment, i.e. put it on our website, or having some type of email or something, so that our obviously the Arizona public can participate anytime they want. And so I'd like to throw that out as something to consider. But having said that, Commissioner Watchman seconds the motion.
I think Commissioner Lerner has seconded the motion. There was discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
This is Commissioner Meal. I think we have an agenda item coming up about our website. And I agree with Commissioner Watchman that when we discuss the website, we should just have a place for people to make comments, an ongoing part of that website.
Excellent. Wait, absolutely. Okay. I do anticipate that we'll revisit this. And so for now, let's just close this particular item. Do we have a second regarding how we're going to handle public comments? The minimum 30 minutes, extending it through the end of the meeting, and then we will do a formal close prior to ending the meeting.
Well, Commissioner Newberg, I think we already had a second on that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All in favor? Commissioner Watchman, we're doing a quick vote.
Aye.
Emile.
Aye.
Lerner.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Newberg is an aye. The motion carries.
Newberg, I have another question about public comment, and if it's inappropriate here, just let me know. But as long as we're talking about public comments, how does the public access public comment, or do they? How are they able to see other people's comments? I mean, we get that, we're sent that information, but is there a way for the public to have access? Because if we're trying to be as transparent as possible, and eventually we might be posting these, but for right now, who can access and see the public comments that are like what we just got?
Yes, they are a matter of public record. I do believe that it takes effort to get them. And with that, I would like to defer to Yasmin and or Pam to discuss the process, because we have had requests for them.
That's correct. This is Yasmin Ramos, and they would have to submit a public records request, these documents, and we will fulfill that information at that time.
Okay, this is Commissioner Lerner. Just so that's the only way, right? We don't post them, and that's the common way, right? Public comments are only by public records request.
Yes, that is correct, because sometimes they put their personal information and we have to redact.
Okay. Thank you.
And Commissioner Lerner, let's, I mean, I think we can have a robust discussion when we talk about our website about what we really want to include. And so let's revisit this issue. I think it's important.
If I could provide a point of clarification on that, this is Pam. The public comments are part of the open meeting. So any public comments that come in are going to need to be posted with the minutes from each meeting. And they still need to comply with the timeframes under the statutes. If material is publicly available, you can direct people to request them or to specifically pull them down from the website rather than a request.
So just for clarification, then at this time, there's no, until we get our website, right now, they need a public record request. But then once we get our website, that may not be the case. I'm just trying to understand.
The minutes from each meeting still need to be posted.
Right.
Wherever the notices are being currently stored, because there is open meeting requirements as to how long the publication needs to last for. I believe it's a year to be publicly accessible.
Yeah, I understood that about the minutes. I thought you were referring to public comment. I'm sorry. If it's the minutes, I understand.
The comments should follow the minutes because they're part of the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like it'll expedite our conversation because there's a strong legal obligation here. So public comments eventually will be, attached in some format to our soon to be emerging wonderful new website. So thank you for that. Are we ready to move on to the next item? Okay, with that, we'll move on 5, discussion and possible action on executive director and other administrative support positions. With opening up this discussion, I suggest that we first address the executive director, and then after that, the administrative assistant and other conversations, just for organization purposes.
This is Commissioner Meal. Do we have, can you share on our screen the position description that was sent out? Is that a possibility or not?
That's a question for Yasmin.
Let me go ahead and try to present that right now.
Okay.
And commissioners, while we're waiting for that, I'd like to make a suggestion. In addition to us looking at the description, would it be appropriate for us to invite the past executive director, as long as that person is not applying for this position, for a discussion about skill sets and what the person, I think it was Ray Bladine?
Yes.
Right? And maybe that person, while we're waiting, because we'll have a period of time from the time we post till the time we hire. It might be interesting to have his perspective over what skill sets did he feel were important, what worked, what didn't work. That could help us, guide us as we do our selection for this executive director. So as part of our discussion, I guess that would be a question I have for the other commissioners is, would we want to consider that for a future time? a future meeting and invite the past executive director for insight.
Does anybody have any responses to that?
This is Commissioner Meal. I think that would be an interesting thing to do. I have no objection to that. If we could invite him to the next meeting. I do think it's really important for us to move this along as quickly as we can. I'm hoping that by the end of this discussion today, we can approve a position description and get it posted.
Yes.
And I think we can do that and still invite him to speak to us next week, because it'll take us a number of weeks to get applications in and then for us to select someone.
You know, I agree with that sentiment. And Commissioner Lerner, let me express some concern on my part. First of all, just for the sake of transparency, I've had a thorough conversation with Ray Bladeen as with Christina Gomez, who is the deputy executive director. They are gracious. They have much information to share. And I know that they would welcome calls from all of you to discuss all of their insights. My concern about providing a public forum for this is, once you start opening it up, how do you then decide who gets to speak about their view? We had another commission 10 years prior. And I would also remind the commission that each commission prior to us had their own complications. And so, you know, there's much to be learned, but we also want to do things our way. And if we limit public opportunity to influence the process to one voice, I'm a little concerned about that. But I want feedback. And so I'm certainly not saying this to squash education. It's just, once you open something up, I feel that it becomes quite large. So any thoughts or responses to that?
Well, this is Commissioner Lerner. I guess if they don't mind getting 5 phone calls, I was thinking it would be easier, really, if we all just heard that. We could all ask questions. We might not repeat ourselves because we might have the same questions. I understand what you're saying. Commissioner Newberg, this is a very specific item to be asking about a particular position. So to me, I thought that would be of value. I'll leave it to the other commissioners to decide. I'm fine if it ends up that we decide not to do that, then I'll just make my own phone call and hope that they don't mind having several calls. But from my perspective, I thought it would be helpful to hear. Of course, every commission is going to be different. But I was thinking of skill sets in particular, what was valuable and what wasn't as part of it. But I'll leave it to the other commissioners to make those determinations.
This is Commissioner Meal. Having heard Commissioner Newberg's comments, I actually I agree with that, and I would rather us not then do that in a public forum. And I welcome anyone who wants to call them then to do that. But I do think we need to be careful about what we try to do in public, and not then, like you say, that sort of forecloses other opinions and other opinions about how we should go about that. So I am good with us not doing that.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Watchman. I agree with your thoughts, and also agree with Commissioner Meal that we should, by the end of this meeting, move forward with the position description for our executive director. I'm open, and we'll perhaps reach out to the prior directors just to get a feel, but we obviously need to set the mark for this commission and move forward, and the skill sets, I'm sure we'll pick it up as we go. And so I guess I agree with what you're saying, Madam Chair. And so a great discussion. Thank you.
This is Pamela Pizer. As a point of caution, I would just like to remind everybody that in any conversations that may occur, you can receive information, but there should be no conversation regarding what anyone else may or may not have discussed, because that could potentially lead to an open meeting violation.
Thank you. It sounds like there's consensus that I think both the executive director and deputy assistant director have a wealth of information, and Commissioner Lerner, I do feel that they'd be willing to receive 5 phone calls. They were remarkably gracious, very dedicated public servants, and I encourage everybody to tap into the wealth of their information.
Thank you. If I can just receive their contact information, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, Yasmin can forward that to you.
Okay, sounds good.
With that, let's, it sounds like there is definitely consensus that we need a advertisement and job description out there for our executive director. So let's take a look at these criteria. I did a brief glance prior to the meeting. I think we need to look from the lens of, are there, changes or additions? And one thing that I wasn't sure of, Yasmin, in reading it, with the advertisement of the description, does it ask for vitas, resumes, and letters of reference? Because I think calling references it is incredibly important.
Yes, I believe our Human Resources Department would follow through with that.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Meal. This was very, very well done and very detailed. It may say too much, but I would be happy just publishing this but I look forward to more detailed comments if someone has any.
This is Commissioner York. I had a question related to salary. It had mentioned a salary, but I was curious if there was a range. Grade E3, I don't know what that is in the state, so.
And if there is a representative, Yasmin, if you are able to answer this, I am not familiar with these kinds of states.
Yes, I am sure there is a range for an E3. I think that was just a recommendation based on, previous encumbrance. And I think that's what the recommendation was. I believe before was 105, but that was 10 years ago. And based on now, that was the recommendation. But I can get, the starting point and the end point for you guys to decide.
And Yasmin, listing it does not require us to stay at that figure. Is that correct? I mean, that is a target and is up for, discussion.
I believe that is correct. I believe if we post it, it would just kind of depend on what you guys want to do. We can post it with this 121, or we can post it with the range, saying between, and depending on the candidate and what they bring to the table and their qualifications, you guys can determine that.
This is Commissioner Meal. In today's world, the 100,000 won't be sufficient. I think we're more likely to be in the 120 to 160 and very likely to be in the upper end of that range.
Right now, they have 120.
Yeah, now I guess maybe we can ask them to clarify that for us. This is Commissioner Lerner on the salary scale and see, and I think the range would be helpful on that, on minimum and maximum. And I agree that we probably need to start with that 121 versus where it was in the past. I also think that this is well done. And the only thing I have a question on is, where does it say that this is not, I know it says at will status, but it wasn't filled out there. I mean, this is something that is only about a 1 year, maybe a couple year, depending on what's needed. So to be sure, to be clear that this is a long-term temporary position, I guess, is one question. Where does that come into play?
And
Yasmin?
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't catch it.
Where does it show when we advertise this position that it is not permanent, that it's a 1 to 2 year position?
I think we can post that in the description as well. It'll be in the job posting. So this is just the position description. This is not the job.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Meal. I'd suggest after the 121, we just put a plus.
Yeah, my sense of this is we are best off coming to consensus and deciding on something today so we can move forward with getting this out. So if we wait for further advice on some of this, this may delay us another week.
And Madam Chair, and that's why I said just do the 121 plus, and I think that leaves it open-ended enough and obviously indicates that salary is going to be at least 121 and maybe higher depending on their qualifications.
And I agree with Commissioner Meal. I mean, as long as there's a range in there, I mean, we don't have to list the range, but if it says E3 and the range starts at 121 plus, I think we're fine. Just as a very minor point, under knowledge, under the list of knowledge, there's a small typo where it says state lobbying. It should be, there's just a small typo there. State lobbying laws towards the end of the knowledge list. Otherwise, I am good with this job description.
My suggestion, commissioners, is, we're going to have some other content issues to discuss related to the hiring. I propose that we have along the way, specific motions so that once we agree on something, we lock that in and then do it that way rather than waiting for a very, kind of robust motion. So with this fixing of the typo, are we ready to have a motion to approve this job description for our executive director with the clarification that the salary is to be listed at 121,000 per year plus, with a limited time frame of the job?
Yes, this is Commissioner Watchman at will, but basically I think we're good. So Commissioner Watchman motions to approve this job description for the executive director with the salary at 121 plus at an E3 schedule at will, and also recognizing some of the typos that Commissioner Lerner noted.
Thank you, Commissioner Watchman. Do we have a second?
Commissioner York seconds.
Okay, quick vote. Commissioner Watchman.
Aye.
Commissioner Meal.
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Commissioner Newberg is an aye. The motion carries unanimously. Let's move.
Commissioner Meal, I have an
Yes.
additional comment. There are some blanks and other things that still need to be filled out that I assume will require someone to approve it. So I make a motion that we authorize Chairwoman Newberg to work with staff and to use her discretion to complete whatever forms and whatever other information is required for the posting.
Commissioner Lerner seconds.
Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Watchman.
Aye.
Meal.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
I screwed up the order. Sorry, I messed up. Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
I'm going across the screens. The motion carries unanimously. Let's talking about the method of advertising, number of days we want to advertise, where. Any thoughts on that issue?
This is Commissioner York. I'm not sure where to advertise, but I do know we need to limit it probably to 14 to 21 days because of the fact of the time is of the essence.
This is Commissioner Lerner. I agree with Commissioner York. I'd say 14 to 21 at the most. And just get the word out there. I'm sure word will spread quickly that this is going on.
Commissioner Meal, I have a question. What when the government posts on their standard procedures, where does it go to?
Yasmin, can you please clarify where we would anticipate this being posted?
It goes to our job board for the state of Arizona. I'm not sure if it's actually linked to other entities or not. I would have to get back to you on that. But I know for state government, it goes on our job board for sure. I'm just not sure if it's linked further out.
But it sounds like, Commissioner Lerner alluded to this, that we feel confident that with it being released on that government job board, that it will get sufficient attention and notice, that we'll have a wide enough range of candidates to tap into. I think that's really the essence of what we need to be concerned about, that there's a big group of people to pull from.
And as another note, if possible, for this is Commissioner Lerner, when it does get posted, if we could be notified so that we are all aware, because sometimes things get posted and we don't know, because I'm not looking at the job posting board, so I wouldn't be aware. But if that could be something we're aware of, that would be helpful as well.
Absolutely, I'll be sure to share that.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to also discuss, and we can absolutely table this for next week, but I think we ought to begin to be thinking about this, our interview process. To what extent will those interviews be in public? To what extent might we have questions that are better asked in executive session? This actually is a hot topic. It's a serious topic, and to what extent do we have a hybrid? In light of our public comments up to date, there's a sentiment of doing as much of our business in public. I'm a huge fan of that. Look, all five of us really did all of our work in public, and so. I don't know if the other commissioners want to begin this conversation or discuss this next week, but we have some work to do with thinking about the process and also thinking about the explicit questions that we want to ask, because they're related. The greater the sensitivity of the questions, the more people may need private avenues through which they can share, I don't know if there are prior work, complications. We may have, questions that we want to ask. And so are there any conversations or discussion points that you would like to address today?
Commissioner Meal, I suspect we will get a fairly good number of applicants. And like the Judicial Appellate Commission did, I would suggest that we in public review those applicants and narrow the list down to the top 3 to 5, depending on what the applications look like, and then only interview that number of people, and not put ourselves in a position where we're saying we're going to interview everybody that applies.
This is Commissioner Lerner. I think that's a good strategy to follow.
Commissioner Watchman agrees. I think in terms of advertising and talking to folks, we're constrained for the most part by what the Arizona employment laws are. So the quicker the better. But narrow it down to 3 to 5, I think would be good. But I'll leave it to your discretion, Madam Chair. Working with the Department of Administration as to the length of time and the applicants, and then we can go from there and discuss discuss the top 3 or top 5 candidates. So thank you.
And this is Commissioner Lerner to follow up, since I think we agree with Commissioner Meal's proposal. I know that as you mentioned, we all did interviews which were public, and so the questions became public after the first interview. So we were, at least I know we were advised not to watch in advance, so we didn't see what was coming. So if we wanted to, we could try to follow that same strategy. I think that's what you're suggesting, Commissioner Newberg, is to follow that same practice of having the interviews be public. Is that correct? Is that what you were suggesting?
Yeah, well, I'm opening it up to conversation. So what I'm hearing consensus is we'll do our due diligence, narrow down the list to maybe the top 3 to 5. I mean, part of me slightly wonders what if we find 6 really great people, if we have a motion to limit it to 5. I'm slightly worried if we can maybe have a little more room to have flexibility just in case. But yes, I think, what I'm hearing is that there's an openness that once we narrow the list, that we do conduct.
Yes, and this Chairman Meal, I'm fine with not putting a number on it. I just think as a format that we're going to want to look through everything, narrow the list down, and then interview those that we think are appropriate as just a general direction. I don't even think we need to do a motion or anything, but I think that's just, if we just sort of keep that in mind as we go forward, I think that would be good.
Okay, I mean, it sounds like there's consensus that we will, get the best candidates, do our due diligence, narrow it down, and that we will begin the process with public interviews, and to be determined if there's other sensitive, questions or issues that may require executive session. Of course, we reserve the right to ask for that under necessary circumstances. Given that we're not taking action on this, again, as Commissioner Meal said, I don't believe we need a motion here. Any other discussion? Okay.
No.
We will, and I believe we'll have time. We may want to defer this to next week. We do need to think through our interview questions. And actually a relevant question along this is, when we decide the interview questions we want to ask, does anybody feel we need to go into executive session for that? Might there be sensitive questions that we want legal counsel for in determining what questions are appropriate? Because if we do expect to go into executive session next week to work through our specific interview questions, if we think we need legal advice, it's better to alert the public now of that possibility.
This is Commissioner York. Erica, I believe that we need to allow ourselves the flexibility for that. So I would notify the public now that could be a possibility when we have that as an agenda item for our next meeting.
Okay. And any other discussion on that? Any other discussion on the executive director position? We've already had a motion. We've approved the job description. We're going to move forward with advertising the job. We're beginning to narrow down our process. Any other discussion for this week?
Nope.
Excuse me, Chair, no
Yes.
discussion, but is public comment still open or has it closed?
You know what? It is literally closing as you speak. Thank you so much, Pam, our attorney. It is now 9:44 and public comment is now closed. Please note, members of the commission may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Okay, with that, we'll move on to a discussion of the executive assistant position. Yasmin, I believe you sent out a description of that as well?
Yes, did you want me to present that as well?
If you don't mind, thank you. you know, with this discussion, as we, you know, think through the different elements of our executive director conversation, just starting with the job description and other criteria, is there any discussion?
Commissioner Meal, once again, I would put a plus sign after the 53,000. And I do think this job description makes it sound like we're looking for a super person to some degree. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and not untypical of a job description. So I would be fine with it.
This is Commissioner Lerner. I agree. And I don't know, this is the executive assistant deputy director, correct? So, but although I had no other comments other than I agree with Commissioner Neal.
Okay, I want to clarify, is this description, Yasmin, for the executive assistant or the deputy executive director? They are two fundamentally different positions.
Yes, this is for the executive assistant to
Okay.
director.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this looks fine to me too.
This is Chairman Meal. I mean, Commissioner Meal, this is, I think, the replacement for Yasmin. So she's probably cheering us on to get this moving.
I don't know. I'm getting a little attached to Yasmin.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Watchman. The job description looks good. The only thing I see is the translation services. It lists the several tribes. Are we also going to have translation in Spanish as well? And so, you know, not to point out, I think this is needed for the
Right.
different languages in our state, but also translation for the other parts of our community.
You know, Commissioner Watchman, I noticed the same thing, and I think I saw maybe in a slightly different area that it included Spanish, but that is, I think, an important point to be consistent. So Yasmin, I do think that there's value if we're getting somebody multilingual or, you know, able to communicate in different languages. Spanish is very important in our state.
It's down, it was just Commissioner York, it was down on the bottom.
At the bottom, okay.
Coordinating all interpretations.
Right. It was listed one place and not another, but to be consistent, I think that'd be terrific.
We should make it consistent.
Yes.
This is Commissioner Lerner. It is under the functions on the third part, but it under the functions under the fifth item. But in the summary, it does not have all of the same. It has a misspelling of Hopi up there. Sorry, I'm a spell check person. You'll know this for now. But it also doesn't list Spanish there. So maybe we can just make those two items the same under the summary and under the function list for consistency's sake.
And this Commissioner Meal, I just want to point out that we're not expecting this person to be multilingual, but they are, but part of their responsibility is to make sure that translating services do occur and that it's translated to these different languages.
Correct.
Right, that's an excellent point, because I think that there may well be somebody that is explicitly tasked with outreach in our community and media and being multilingual in that role. I think will be a little more important. Any conversation about timing of, you know, are we ready to post this? And relative to this, any conversation about do we want the executive director that we ultimately hire to have any involvement in this hire, or is this a hire we want to move on as soon as possible and take under you know, our own responsibility?
So this is Commissioner Lerner. As a thought, I thought we could move forward with the advertisement, but then once we hire the executive director, have the executive director actually do the hire, so we don't have a delay of then having to wait 2 to 3 weeks again That way the executive director could move quickly with the number of people who have applied. They could look at the applications and make that hire. Or be directly involved in it. I'm not sure whether the commission wants to be involved, but certainly the executive director should be.
Any other discussion? I mean, that makes sense to me. I'm very comfortable with that. We're not delayed in any kind of way, but with the timing, we hope that our executive director would have some involvement. So with that, I do think we need a motion to move forward with this job description and, our intention to move forward with advertising the position. Do I have a motion on this?
Commissioner Watchman motions to move forward with the advertisement and in that approving the job description that's presented herein. So I motion to move forward with the executive assistant.
We have a second.
Commissioner York seconds.
Any discussion? Okay, with that, we'll do a quick vote. Commissioner Watchman,
Aye.
Commissioner Meal,
Aye. Aye.
right? I think there's a little, there we go.
Commissioner Neal, I believe you have joined the meeting twice. I think you have to close out of one of them. That's where the echo is coming from.
That's right.
Commissioner Lerner,
Aye.
Commissioner York,
Aye.
and Commissioner Newberg is an aye, and again unanimously, the motion is approved on moving forward with the job description and advertising of the executive assistant position. With that, we'll move on to item 6, which is discussion and possible action on securing legal counsel and other consultative support. Do we have any discussion? You received, I think, recently a list of firms, attorney firms that have been that are contracted with the state. I personally have not had sufficient time to really kind of dive deep through that information. And my sense is that this is going to be a cumbersome process, an extremely important process, and having the executive director and the executive assistant in place is going to be a huge, source of support for us. Having said that, continuing the conversation like we did, last week, it sounded like there was consensus of looking at firms that represented both a Republican side, a Democratic side. I'd like to make sure that not only do I represent the consensus building of the R's and D's, but I actually also represent what is 32% of the Arizona registered voters, which are the unaffiliated, or also known as the independents. We'll meet again next week. So we do have some time, but if there's initial discussion on this topic, the floor is all of yours. And if not, we can table this to next week.
This is Commissioner York. Commissioner Newberg, I move we table this agenda item until next week to allow us time to review the list and talk with our representatives to maybe narrow down our choices.
Just a quick comment, just in case if you guys don't like any of these, you can just let us know as well, and we'll get a scope of work together to look at other options.
This is Commissioner Lerner. Is this list going to be public that was sent to us, or is this? I guess that's my question. Is this list public? What you sent to us?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
It's the information that you sent to us on the planning for that document, the planning for legal services. Is this something that will be public for the or not? Is this something that we can share, cannot share, or will be shared? I guess that's what I'm wondering.
I guess I defer to Pam. I'm not sure.
This is Pamela Pizer. The list itself, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, so obviously I can't comment on the specific comments, but I cannot see why it would not be public. These are people who have contracted with the state to provide services. They went through a certain process. There's nothing secret about that.
So this is Commissioner Lerner. So in that sense, then, if this is available for people, I support Commissioner York's suggestion to wait because we might get public comment on. Although I don't know if we'd be able to look at that public comment next week. I guess I'm just trying to think in terms of public feedback on this list, on how they would act, how the public would access this, and then provide us feedback if as part of it. I'm throwing out there the question.
Yeah, you know, Commissioner Lerner, with the timing of our ultimate hire, I do believe there'll be sufficient time for the public to weigh in. You know, all of the lists that the firms that we received, they're all have been vetted by the state, and so it's all available to the public. And this is going to be played out over several weeks, so I really do think there'll be time.
Okay, thank you.
This is Commissioner Meal. I would like to see, if possible, a draft of, if we decided to go beyond this list and post what we're looking for, I would like to see a draft of what that would look like.
Scope of work, I think.
Yeah, so that we can be looking at that at the same time.
So this is Commissioner York. Commissioner Meal, you would like to see a draft of the scope of work? That's what you had.
Yes, a draft of the scope of work, yes.
So commissioners, I think on the after the list of, and I don't know if this is a comprehensive qualifications list, but after the list, I'm looking at it now of what we were just said, of the list of firms, there is something that says qualifications, planning for legal services, and it has some specific items in there that we probably would need to look at to be sure that it was as comprehensive as we would like, but there are some things listed there.
Okay.
There's
Thank you. I had not seen that.
Right. You know, we have not had a lot of time to take a look at the job descriptions and the list. Commissioner York has suggested we table this to next week. I think that might be a good idea to give us time to go through it. And I just want to reiterate that, number one, we are not obligated as a commission to go with the firms that have been, you know, already approved and vetted by the state. Although there is a lot of value to the work that the state has already done with ensuring that these firms have specialty and you know, have, as I said, been appropriately vetted. With that, is there any other discussion for today prior to tabling this for a more substantive conversation next week about what we're specifically looking for and the process by which we'll move forward?
As a point of clarification, I believe this list is on the SPO website, so it may already be out there. You may have comments by next week.
I don't believe so. I think this one, we got it from the Attorney General's list. I don't believe this was part of our SPO website.
It's the AG contracts list.
Well, Madam Chair, I'll second, this is Commissioner Watchman. I'll second Commissioner York's motion to table this pending further review. Give us time to look at the different sites and consider maybe having staff draft the scope of work too. Another week will give us time to further review this. So I'll second Commissioner York's motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Watchman. Any further discussion? We'll take a quick vote. Commissioner Watchman. I saw your word. I saw you say aye with your mouth. Can you turn your mic on?
Aye, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Commissioner Meal.
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Commissioner Newberg is an aye, and with that, the motion carries. We will bring this up again next week. And with that, we will move. Let me ask quickly, before we move on to item 7, we could take a very quick 10-minute break now, or we could do this after item 7. Any preference amongst the commissioners?
After.
Okay. If there's no dissension, we're moving on with item 7, discussion and possible action on the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission website and IT needs. And as we begin this conversation, I'd like to let the commissioners know that I did meet virtually with Sudabeh Syed, and if I destroyed your name, I apologize, who is the engagement manager with ADOA, and Justin Turner, who handles our website. And so we have 2 major conversations to talk about, one being the website, and the second issue being our IT needs. Let's begin with the website. Just as a reminder, currently, our website is registered under GoDaddy, and it is quite stale and outdated. And we have the ability to use the resources that are available to us at the Department of Administration. Actually, it could be free. They have done considerable work with many other agencies in the state with freshening up the look, providing current security, because by bringing the website within our arizona.gov domain, we enjoy the layer of security and protection that all of our government agencies now have. And we have the ability, hopefully, to archive and bring forward the old information from the past ones. If we're not, we would continue to register and make sure that those archives are accessible to the public. But the 5 commissioners have received just an example of what the Department of Administration can provide in terms of these basic templates. And with that, let's open it up to conversation about what we feel the website needs are for us.
Well, this is Commissioner Watchman. I'll start. First, I don't know if it speaks to the logo, but the website features a logo, and I like the logo that was designed for us. It's plain and simple. It seems like it's consistent with many other state agencies with the look, so I like that. Regarding the GoDaddy, I'm sure there's rules, but it'd be nice to basically, I don't know how we can reference those websites, but in our new website, we should reference the old for our archive purposes, and then we can have one built for us and go from there. But I think we got to get something going right away as a template. I don't know if we can get some templates going. If we can get a template that help me decide, what best approach. But the logo looks good to me. And I don't know how they do it administratively. If it's GoDaddy, do we then authorize and move it into a Arizona government domain? And that's basically a part of the state. If we can do that, I think that'd be great. And then start populating with information that we need. So those are my thoughts at this point, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And do you want me to present the old website versus the kind of new website we're proposing?
That'd be fabulous, Yasmin. Why don't you, for the sake of the public, where they could just see visually, the older sites on GoDaddy were, at least in my opinion, quite difficult to navigate. The format isn't as user-friendly with, I think, the way our minds work in this decade. And along with that, we talked earlier about accessibility, things that we could add on our website. I have two particular ideas. One, we talked already about, do we want to have a way in which the public can, in a more ongoing way, submit comments and feedback? I think there are pros and cons to that, and as we address that, I have one slight concern about unfettered access to give us comments. And that is that old saying of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Our process attracts wonderful attention, and there are some that are following it with greater acuity than others. And if we open it up 24/7, will we potentially get just overwhelmed by a volume of feedback that distracts us from the quality and the cross-representation of our entire state? So as we discuss that, I think that's an important concept to think about. But I love the idea, when we're thinking about our website, of thinking about how does the public access us, because that's their channel through which they know what we're doing. It needs to be user-friendly. The second thing that I think we could potentially do with this has to do with an issue of education. Once every 10 years, we have the opportunity to capture the imaginations of the entire state. We're one of a minority of states that handles this redistricting process in a way of engaging citizens. And so to all the teachers out there that want to teach their students civics and the way government works and how representation works, to my sense, if we have some educational component to this website that engaged our students at all ages, that'd be a win for everybody across the board. So with that, additional conversation.
Commissioner Newberg, this is Commissioner Lerner. I agree with what you said. I think we have to think about these parameters, but I do think having a website that's clean and easy to use for the public and for teaching, I can tell you it'd be nice when I teach and go to some of these old websites, it becomes pretty convoluted to try to get the information out. So I agree with what you're saying, and I do think we will have to think more about the public comment piece, but that's just part of the whole big picture. And I guess I will just mention too, I'll agree with Commissioner Watchman as well on the idea of that linkage between past and present. I think that's a very important piece, however we do that.
Any other conversation on the website?
This is Commissioner York. I'm in favor of the logo change. I'm also in favor of having the security of our website being under the state. That eliminates some cost, as well as hopefully give us the sort of generic blanket to protect any sort of hacking or manipulation in the future.
And it's also easily changed. In the past, people needed to learn code in order to be able to make small changes. This will be highly adaptable so that eventually our executive director, at the advice of us collectively, can update things very rapidly and respond. If we're ready for a motion, we will need a motion to recommend that we, turn over the management of our website to the ADOA and to give them the ability to move forward with the redesign. and beginning to move our information into that format. And if we're ready for it, I will entertain a motion.
Commissioner Meal, I so move.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Lerner, I'll second Commissioner Meal.
Any other discussion? With that, we'll do a vote. Commissioner Watchman.
Aye.
Commissioner Meal.
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Commissioner Newberg is an aye, and with that, the motion passes unanimously with the website. Moving on to IT. So as we talk through IT, and with that, what I really mean, things related to state-issued computers, cell phones, our phone service, laptops. We ought to move into this conversation with the expectation that there's close to 100% chance that all of our records will be subpoenaed as a matter of public record. So everything that we do related to this business is a right of the state, and we are obligated to keep records of all of that information. And given the interested parties, I think we should presume that we will need to produce that information. With that, the state ADOA can make it relatively easy for us. They have already refurbished 10 laptops that are ready to go for the 5 of us should we want to use one, as well as any immediate staff that we handle. The value of those laptops, they are Chromebooks, is the security and the ability to completely separate our world such that 100% of your commission work can be traced to that one device. With that also, cell phones can be ready to go such that any calls or texts that we make in relation to this business will be identified on a separate device. We can choose ourselves to, of course, purchase new material down the road if we wanted to allocate those resources. But for now, this is being available to us on behalf of ADOA, the Department of Administration. And I would also like to add that we can get access to state-issued email addresses such that, again, we can separate out our business for the sake of public records. With that, I open up to conversation and would love to hear your feedback about whether you'd like to take advantage of this offer.
This is Commissioner Lerner. I think that it's a good idea to separate these things out from personal to our work on the commission. Though for me, I'm a Mac person, so having to learn a Google Chrome will be just kidding. But anyway, I think that the idea of the computers are a good idea. I don't know about the phones, but certainly computers. But I'd like to hear what others have to say.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Watchman. Is it a requirement, or are you making this as a suggestion? I say that because everything that we discuss could be public record, and so for me, like for example, I'm in Flagstaff today. I'm running this through my hotspot because my in-laws don't have internet here, and so for me, having a hotspot. Because I travel around, I try not to, but I have to get around Navajo, and hotspots are my only form of connecting to the internet. And so if I go to a Chrome, then I'll have to use my hotspot, and I don't know if that's whether or not that falls out of the realm of state law. And so, but I guess my question is it a requirement? If it's not, I'm okay with what I have right now. So. Right now I'm just on Google Meet, and that's about it. So,
Yeah, let me give an answer, and then I'm going to turn it over to our counsel. My sense is that this is entirely our choice. It is something that the state can provide for us. I would like to share that I personally am going to take the state up on all of these options, just because I do presume that my records will be subpoenaed. And you know, I want to compartmentalize my life. I mean, the volume of emails and texts and phone calls and potentially files that we access and save, it's going to be pretty onerous. And just, I encourage all of you to think through, in the reasonable case that your records are subpoenaed, just the difficulty of you going back and having to navigate what business was what and separating that all. So it's really just an issue of the state offering these services or this equipment. And with that, before we take a motion on whether or not we want to take advantage of what the state can offer, I'd like to ask counsel if they have anything to add on this issue.
This is Pamela Pizer. The only thing I would add is that the email and voicemail potential would be separate and apart, perhaps, from equipment. So you have emails, and that's, state issued email. And I'm not necessarily an IT person, but my understanding is that the state maintains those and would have a method for potentially assisting should it be necessary. The physical hardware is a completely different issue because, those, whatever you guys get now probably wouldn't be used by the next commission in 10 years, because I'm sure technology will have proceeded such that, the equipment's all outdated by then. So there's no actual requirements. It's really more so a convenience situation, because when you do have a separate email address, it allows you to identify things by that email address. Even with, using a state issued cell phone, that's not necessarily going to keep your voicemail separate unless you have a state issued phone number.
Yes, that's a good point. I actually presumed it was a separate number, but maybe for even if it's the same number, maybe for texting. Okay. Well, for now, I think the important decision that we have to make is everybody comfortable with moving forward with having the state provide us access to state issued computers and cell phones, should we choose to use them, and to use these state issued email addresses? And again, it's per your discretion.
If I could provide one final point of clarification, use of these different equipment resources or the different lists, like for instance, with ADOA providing the list of potential attorneys, this is about convenience. You can still obtain the equipment in a separate manner or attorneys in a separate manner, but the process is a little bit longer. As far as it impacts, though, public records, which is what a lot of you touched on for the question about equipment, the public records are public records, whether it's on your personal computer or a state issued computer. It's just a matter of convenience. If everything you do is on a state issued laptop and there's a public records request, you provide the laptop to the person gathering the records in theory, it's, at least contained. If it's on your home computer, if you're going to turn over the home computer to somebody to review, to gather up the records, then you don't have access to the computer while the records are being gathered. But the records are public records regardless of where they're located.
This is Commissioner Meal. I think I'd like to take advantage of all of the above then.
And again, I know, this is a lot to digest, and we all collectively don't need to make personal decisions right here and now with how we'll do our business. The question is, do we want to move forward and accept, what the state is offering us, which is a method to separate our business life such that when, if we're subpoenaed, it will be relatively easier for us to provide the public records.
This is Commissioner Lerner, and I would support that.
Okay.
And I could make that motion. As you
Thank
stated.
you. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Watchman seconds.
Okay. Any other discussion? With that, we'll do a quick vote. Vice Chairman Watchman.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Newberg is an aye, and with that, the motion carries unanimously, and we will take advantage very appreciatively of ADOA's offer to provide us with state-issued computers, cell phones, and laptops. Well, I guess laptops is computers. So with that, I would like to move that we take just a quick 5-10 minute break. Do we need a motion for that, council?
No, you just recess for however long you wish to recess.
How about we recess until 10:30 sharp? And the Tom
Okay.
Coughlin rule, if anybody's a few minutes early, that's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Hello, commissioners. Okay, I believe we have most of us back convening. Okay, I see that we have all 5 commissioners here. I just want to check in with our council and Yasmin to make sure that they are live and participating before we reconvene.
Pamela Pizer is present.
Okay, Yasmin.
Miss Guerrero is as well.
Okay.
Yes, and we never stop streaming, so we are still live.
Okay, we are ready to reconvene, and with that, we will move on to item number 8, which is discussion and possible action on ADOA, Arizona Department of Administration resources. The item that I think is most appropriate to this category is our physical location. Based on the recommendation last week, or the authority that the commission placed in me being able to scout out potential locations, I was able to view a location that is immediately accessible. It is at 1110 West Washington in Phoenix. It has the appropriate distance from the state capitol and the governor's offices, but also highly accessible to potential meetings and other locations that our staff may ultimately need to access. I was impressed with the location. It's very practical. It is 2,000 square feet, so it's large. It has a couple of large, separate, private offices, such that a executive director and a deputy executive director would be fully able to have confidential private meetings and phone calls. There's a large space for additional staff with cubbies to be able to carve out separate work areas. A very nice area for an administrative assistant to welcome guests and seat potential people who are waiting. And I think what's also very attractive is that because it's a state building and we share it with many other departments and commissions, we have access to a lot of different size board meeting rooms and public convening rooms that we don't have to necessarily pay for on a regular basis, but with advance notice we can reserve, such that large public meetings or smaller commission meetings, we could have all the physical space that would accommodate our needs that we're not personally financially responsible for on a regular basis. There's great parking. It's secure. There is metal detectors. It's a state-run building, and so nobody can access it without proper authority or going through security, protocols. The space is just below $50,000 a year, and here's what's also, I think, particularly attractive. The space is already prepaid through the end of July. And so because it's already covered, it would save the commission over $20,000. That's not obviously the criteria that we make the decision, but I thought I would just throw that in. It has great Wi-Fi. I think it's a very convenient location for us and our staff. And with that, I open up to discussion, and of course, we don't need to necessarily decide on this location. You are all welcome to go and personally visit it, but I wanted to at least bring it up to your attention and open it up to conversation.
Commissioner Meal, I'm good with us going ahead with that office space based on that presentation.
This is Commissioner Lerner. I concur.
Commissioner York, that's exciting. Erica, you found a great space.
Commissioner Watchman agrees. Let's move forward.
And you know what? It's not me. I credit the state. It's terrific when a good deal is presented to us. It's a nice thing. And with that, if we could have a motion to move forward with telling the state that we will move forward with securing this location, I will entertain that motion.
Commissioner Watchman motions to move forward with the office space that our Madam Chair described.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner York will second.
Any additional conversation or discussion? Okay, with that, we'll have a vote. Commissioner Watchman?
Aye.
Commissioner Meal?
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner?
Aye.
Commissioner York?
Aye.
And Commissioner Newberg is an aye. And with that, the motion carries to move forward with this location at 1110 West Washington. And thank you again to the Arizona Department of Administration. With that, we'll move on to item number 9, which is discussion and possible action on social media and media in general. With that, I want to open it up. There is no specific issue here that we need to wrestle with or really, make any explicit decisions on. We opened it up to just garner opinions, thoughts about moving forward. And I'd say that as we think about this, we should think about it through the lens of an opportunity for transparency, accessibility, and education to the broader public.
This is Commissioner York. In all businesses today, we tend to want to be successful in social media. The issue that I see with the commissioners, at least, is that our ability to stay current and active in a way that would be helpful for the public as far as transparency. So from my perspective, I think using social media could be helpful to the commission, but I also think we take the input from the executive director that we hire.
This is Commissioner Lerner. I tend to agree. I think if we can put this off until we hire an executive director, and we can get a sense from the director and staff on what they believe would be the best means for social media, I think that would be great. So I concur.
I think, the social media is an enormous source of influence and ability to educate, but an enormous responsibility and right for misinterpretation. And it sounds like the commission collectively agrees that waiting until we have an executive director, where if we were to choose to go in any route that we would advertise ourselves, it would be done in a way that we had great quality control and responsible deliberation on that. It's a major issue. In the media, which has more to do with, and I don't know about the four of you, I'm presuming that you've received calls from different media sources for public comment. I just want to share my own personal struggles with these requests. That I want to personally be as accessible and as available, and as one of 5, would love for our commission to be as transparent as accessible. And I think the 5 of us, as long as we approach that responsibility, understanding that the underlying motive for all of that has to do with advocating for our collective mission and educating the public, I hope that we all see that through that similar lens. I'm not sure we need to limit anything, but if there's any general discussion about this topic at this point, until we hire staff, it's an opportunity for all of you to chime in.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Watchman. I think I raised the issue at our last meeting, and I'm gradually trying to understand social media, and I don't use it a whole lot, but I do see a lot of, I use social media, like for example, Facebook and Twitter, as a means, for meeting notices and basic transmission of information. And, our public basically includes 18 years and above. And so I'm an old email kind of guy, but, I do see, a lot of information, which I miss, that's transmitted via Twitter and Facebook. And so I think for the public, we have to keep that in mind, because, we're here serving, the entire basically voting base of Arizona. So, but I do agree with, my colleague, Commissioner York, that we should have this issue in tandem with our new director. But, I'm open, and I think in terms of transparency and reaching many of our constituents, if you will, it probably is a must to include social media in our outreach, in addition to what we have on our new website. So, I'm still trying to understand it with my business, but it's something that is here that we have to use. So, I'll stop with that, but those are, a few words that I have.
So this is Commissioner York. The other comments I would make is that as you evolve your public information path, I would believe that the website would be first, and then tying to the website would then next be either Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, depending on which tools we would use. I would also encourage at that time the executive director to limit the tools to 2, not everything, and then we would just go forward and have that particular link to on the website as well, and that would just sort of start the process. But right now, I also feel that the commission, as we sit here as the 5 of us, aren't really qualified to begin on a journey on social media with just the 5 of us. So that's why I'd like to wait a little bit. It's definitely after the website's developed.
It sounds like there's overwhelming consensus on this, that the 5 of us are not suited to manage any social media endeavor, and that there is tremendous value to being transparent and accessible, but we want to wait till we have the appropriate staff in place to responsibly manage that process. And with that, I don't think we need a motion because we're not taking any action on this. Thank you very much for that discussion. With that, we'll move on to item 10, which is an update on the status of the Howard open meeting law complaint. This will be provided by the Attorney General's office. And just as a reminder for the public, there was a complaint filed on January 21st. And the essence of the complaint was questioning the validity of going into executive session to select the independent chair on meeting dates of January 14th and 21st of 2021. And with that, I'd like to ask our counsel to please say some few words on any updates here.
Pamela Pizer speaking. I have reached out to the county attorney's office myself. Another member of my legal team also did the same. We are still waiting to hear back on who the assigned investigator and attorney is. So as soon as we get something back, I will be able to provide a more detailed update.
Thank you, Pam. Any questions from our commissioners? Okay. And with that, we will keep the public informed of the status of this complaint. And we again commit to the public to doing as much of the business as we can within the public eye, understanding that legally we must err on the side of caution to protect the integrity of this process. And with that, we will move on to item number 11, which is discussion and possible action on the scheduling of upcoming meetings. We had, this relates actually to item number 13, which is our next meeting date. Based on our conversation last week, we are tentatively planning on a commission meeting every Tuesday beginning at 9 a.m. We do not know how long our business will take, so we can't commit to an explicit time frame. But any conversation of our upcoming schedule of meetings?
This is Commissioner York. Unfortunately, I was not able to move all my calendar Tuesdays, and so next Tuesday I have a conflict till roughly starting at 9:30 and going to starting at 10 o'clock. So I'd have to leave the meeting at say 9:50, and my speaking engagement would be done sometime around 10:40.
Okay. You know, as we, and this relates to item number 12, and per the agenda, we do have the ability to move through items per our discretion. My sense is of our agenda items next week, given that we will not be ready to start the actual interview process. And we've done a significant amount of early business. I anticipate our meeting next week being extremely long. I don't know how the commissioners would feel if we continued with our meeting starting at 9, and if Commissioner York needed to remove himself for a period of time. Alternatively, I am open to rescheduling it. This is my priority. And so with that, I open it up to other comments and discussion.
This is Commissioner Lerner. Just as a full disclosure, I have a conflict on the 23rd. That would be most of the day. That begins at 8:15. I might be able to be around in the afternoon. I probably would be able to be around in the afternoon on that date, actually, but certainly all morning on the 23rd would be difficult for me. And then on Commissioner York, I didn't catch, did you say you would be available in the afternoon, or are you busy all day on the next
No, this is Commissioner York. I would be available in the afternoon. I have a engagement where I'm speaking from 9:50 to 10:40 on that Tuesday, and then I could come back to the meeting for the IRC.
This is Commissioner Meal. I wonder if maybe we could start at 8 o'clock next week and have a good chance of finishing certainly the key items while Commissioner York is available.
That would work for me.
That would be fine for me as well.
That works for me, Madam Chair. 8 o'clock. That helps.
That works for me as well. The earlier, the better. Regarding, so the 16th, and we will make formal motions on this upcoming, but then on the 23rd, and I'm thinking that our longest meetings are going to be when we get the applications in hand and we begin with our interviews. On the 23rd, I don't think we're going to be starting with the interviews at that point yet. Do we want to move to a different day that day? Do we want to move to later in the afternoon? We could even table this to next week to see what our agenda items might look like. I'm available per your discretion.
Why don't I suggest possibly tabling the time adjustment for the 23rd till next week?
Commissioner Lerner, we will accommodate your schedule. Are you okay if we table the specific calendaring until next Tuesday?
Sure, that would be helpful. Thank you. Just so I know that that'd be great. Thank you.
Yes, we will accommodate your schedule.
This is Commissioner Meal. I definitely would like to accommodate Shireen's schedule, but my calendar tends to get full if I don't block something out. Do we have an idea of when we might want to reschedule that to? Would we want to do it later in that same day or the next day? It just, if I could have some indication, I'll block it out now.
I would suggest later in that day.
Okay, I'll keep the 23rd totally open then.
Commissioner Lerner, when do you anticipate being available on that day, conservatively speaking, so you're not stressing about getting in on time?
With 2 o'clock, would that work?
Works.
Yes.
Commissioner Watchman?
That works for me. I have a presentation at 5 that day, so there should be plenty of time. So I'm good with 2 o'clock on the 23rd.
Okay. Yeah, I don't anticipate needing to go that long on that day. And so if we can get a motion to approve next week's meeting starting at 8 a.m. on February 16th and then on the 23rd, starting at 2 p.m. I need a motion to support that.
This is Commissioner York. I'd like to make a motion to propose the meeting on February 16th to commence at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I would also like to propose that the meeting for February 23rd commence at 2 p.m.
Okay.
Commissioner Watchman seconds.
Any further discussion? Okay, with that, we'll have a quick vote. Vice Chair Watchman.
Aye.
Commissioner Meal.
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
And Newberg is an aye, and so it is, the motion carries. We will meet next Tuesday at 8 a.m. and then on the 23rd at 2 p.m. With that, we'll move to item number 12, which is discussion of, excuse me.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Newberg. At some point, can we discuss, I know we don't have any idea on scheduling yet, but I know when I looked at last 10 years ago, they had some time in the summer that they did not meet. And I know I have family that I would like to see that I have not seen in over a year. And so while I will do my best to always be online and available, I'd like us to at some point be considering some periods of time that we will be able to do that, where it might, because at some point we may be meeting in person, hopefully, especially for public meetings, public hearing. So I guess at some point I'd like to be able to have that discussion for a future time, so that all the commissioners will have some sense of when there might be a week or two that we might have that availability later on this year.
That's an excellent idea, because I have heard also from other commissioners interested in wondering when in the summer might be times that there'll be less IRC demand. We can absolutely start looking at our collective schedules. Also, remembering from our agenda last week, there is a census delay. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I think there will be windows in the summer where if we do our early work well and create the infrastructure, that there will be time.
If I could provide some guidance on this, as long as there's a quorum present, you can continue business. So that means you need at least 3 members. Occasionally somebody may get sick or be unable to make it. So 1 to 2 persons missing doesn't hold up commission business, but more than that would.
This Commissioner Lerner has a question too. If we are meeting in person and one of our members can call in, would that work as part of our meeting?
That is legally appropriate as long as you've noticed it.
Okay.
And Commissioner Lerner, we actually discussed this last week when we recognized that with geographic distance, that we did provide ourselves some room to have people call in. And I think that it's obviously not ideal, but when necessary, it's workable.
Thank you.
It maybe not today, but in the next few weeks, how about we all collectively look at our summer schedules? If there is anything that is, protected time where for sure you're not available, can you submit that to Yasmin so she could be the central cog to collect the schedules as of now? And my sense of the 5 of us, I don't think we're going to have a problem working around each other's schedules and making sure that everybody has the ability to, do what they need to do, but also fulfill their responsibilities. Any other discussion with upcoming meetings? do we need, I don't believe, do we need a motion to approve these specific times? Pam?
Since they are on the agenda for discussion and possible, yes.
Okay, so let's have a motion to approve that we will meet next Tuesday at 8 a.m. and that we will meet again on February 23rd, 2021 at 2 p.m. Do I have a motion?
I thought we had already done that.
Commissioner Newberg, we already did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I apologize. So then we're moving on to item number 12, which is the discussion of future agenda item requests. Just moving through the agenda for today, I know that we will likely need additional conversation for public comments so that we can keep abreast every week of the comments that are coming in. I believe that we'll need to continue our ongoing conversation about the executive director and administrative assistant hiring. I believe that we'll need an ongoing item regarding legal consultation. We will, I think, best be served to have an ongoing item with possible action on any ADOA resources in case the Department of Administration would like to update us on any of the services they're providing. Let's also have an item on an update of the Howard open meeting complaint in case there is any update on that. And other than that, I'm not aware of any other agenda items unless on the commissioner's minds you'd like to propose something.
This is Commissioner York. We received some information on mapping and the guidelines by the state of Arizona to selecting that firm, and we should have a discussion, or that should be at least on the agenda to cover for next week.
Okay. So let's also add an agenda item on an initial discussion on mapping firms.
And Newberg, did you include the website and IT needs? You included DOA resources. Do we want to just have an umbrella over all of that as part of it?
Yes, we can specify website and IT, and that does fall within the confines of ADOA resources and updates. Okay. With that, do we need a motion to approve these agenda items?
You do not.
Okay.
You just direct Yasmin to include them for the next meeting.
Yasmin, please include these. And as a reminder to the other commissioners, if you have items that you would like to add to the agenda, you are welcome to email Yasmin with your suggestion, and she could make sure that those items are added. That is the appropriate protocol. With that, we will move to item 13, which is just announcing the next meeting date, which we already determined will be next week, the 16th at 8 a.m. for a public meeting. And with that, we can entertain a motion to adjourn unless there are any other items that somebody would like to bring up that is appropriate per our agenda.
This is Commissioner York. I motion that we adjourn our meeting.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Lerner, I second.
Any discussion? Okay, with deep appreciation to the public and our commissioners, we will do a vote to adjourn this meeting. Vice Chairman Watchman?
Aye.
Commissioner Meal?
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner?
Aye.
Commissioner York?
Aye, and thank you for accommodating my times next week.
Of course. And Commissioner Newberg is an aye. With that, the motion carries. We are adjourned, and I look forward to seeing all of our colleagues again next week at 8 a.m. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So long, everybody.
Bye-bye.